I feel like a little emotional reading this. Hey guys, welcome back to Class with Cass. This is a series where I give you tips and tricks on how to live your best school life. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Cassandra. I am a senior at Yale, and a few years ago, I got into every single Ivy League university, including Stanford. And speaking of Stanford, that's what this video is about. We are going to be going through my Stanford essays. I will be reacting to them, dissecting each one right after, and at the very, very end, I will give you tips on how to answer some of these questions. So if you want, you should refer back to some of my old videos. I recently reacted to all my Yale essays, and I have a few from Harvard and Columbia as well. You can check that out here. Yeah, let's get started. Fun fact, Stanford is where my brother will be attending in the fall, so this one is personally near and dear to my heart. Okay, so the first question here is briefly elaborate on one of your extracurricular activities or work experiences, 150 words. So actually this phrase, this question prompt pops up on quite a few of these college applications. And essentially what I did was I wrote it, I tweaked it to each one's word count, and I submitted pretty much the same piece in place of on all of these apps. So if you want to know how I answered this, you can check out me reacting to my Yale videos because I covered this exact same answer there. So the next one is name your favorite books, authors, films, and or artists, 50-word limit. So I literally just list them out here and you'll get to hear a little bit about my favorites. So Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami, House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende, Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie, Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Atonement. What can I say? They are really some of my favorites. Something that I did consider was I wanted sort of some variation in my answers. If you notice, I have in terms of the movies that I chose, I have some like art house movies, I have classics, I have modern blockbusters. Yeah, it just runs the gambit. But at the end of the day, it is still staying true to who I am. I do really love all these movies, but I did want to choose some sort of variety to capture different aspects of me. Next one, what newspapers, magazines, and or websites do you enjoy? 50-word limit. I don't think I hit this limit. I put the New York Times, Los Angeles Times, National Geographic, The Atlantic, Teen Vogue, and then social media, I guess. I just put social media, YouTube, podcasts, and Spotify. I really do love reading articles, especially long form pieces of journalism that really make me think. Yeah, it is just, I find them so enjoyable and I just love learning about the world. So I would say New York Times, LA Times, National Geo, Atlantic, they all really do capture that. And to this day, like I love reading each and every one of them. Obviously, social media is pretty self-explanatory. It's really what I use. What is the most significant challenge that society faces today? 50-word limit. Okay, let's see what I say. Diversity in Hollywood currently means black and white. Asian Americans are not given the opportunity to take lead roles. Not only are characters blatantly whitewashed, parentheses, see, Great Wall, Aloha, Ghost in the Shell, end parentheses, but the characters that are Asian also perpetuate harmful stereotypes, parentheses, see, Pitch Perfect, 16 Candles, Oscars, 2016. And that was right at the 50-word limit. Okay, let's break this question down. So, first of all, what a question to ask. I mean, what is the most significant challenge that society faces today? Impossible to answer. There are way too many. So, I'm not a Stanford admissions officer, but perhaps I'm taking a stab here. Perhaps they are asking, what do you think is the most significant challenge, is a significant challenge, not necessarily the most. It's impossible to answer the most. So I decided to go with a more personal route because diversity in Hollywood is really important to me. And you can tell just from the way that I answered this question that I answered this like 4 years ago. It's a bit dated, and I would put a little bit more nuance into these ideas of diversity. But at the end of the day, like, I only had 50 words. I did what I could, and it demonstrated that I knew what I was talking about. My examples show that I have paid attention to this issue and I know what's up. How did you spend your last 2 summers? 50 word limit. So I guess this would have been my summer of in between sophomore and junior year, and my summer in between junior and senior year. Here's my answer. And I believe this is also right at the 50 word limit. Interviewed the casts of Captain America: Civil War, Disney Channel's Girl Meets World, collaborated in dramaturgical work and the production of my play in Hollywood, conducted man-on-the-street interviews at a journalism camp in Minnesota, made lifelong friends at Hobie, wrote 2 poems a week for Adroit's summer mentorship program. So let's break these down. From elsewhere in my application, Stanford would have known that I am a journalist. You can watch my video on my journalism extracurriculars here. Indeed, I have had the amazing opportunities to interview the casts of a lot of Marvel movies, a lot of Disney Channel shows. So that's what this first portion refers to. Admissions officers will also have known that I am a passionate playwright, nationally produced, nationally published playwright. Next one, conducted man on the street interviews at a journalism camp in Minnesota. This is true. Made lifelong friends at Hobie. What is Hobie? Hobie is a youth leadership program, and you can check more out that here in my leadership video. And then I wrote 2 poems a week for Adroit's summer mentorship program. I believe same thing with this elsewhere in my application, probably under honors and awards or extracurricular activities. I mentioned that I was selected for Adroit's summer mentorship program, and that's what I did one of those summers. What were your favorite events, e.g. performances, exhibits, competitions, conferences, etc. in recent years? 50 word limit. So this one, I just answered it, not in complete sentences, just a list. Performances, : Kids' Choice Awards 2016, We Day Concert, Wango Tango 2016. Exhibits: Harry Potter exhibit, Disney's D23 Expo. Competitions: Orange County Regional Youth Poetry Slam event 2014 to 2016. Conferences: Hobie World Leadership Conference in Chicago. Broadway: Wicked, Lion King. Plays: The Blanks Young Playwrights Festival 2016. Okay, here's an interesting question. What historical moment or event do you wish you could have witnessed? 50 word limit. Oh God. Okay, so here's my answer. It's 43 words. I don't even know if I'm saying these words right, but I'd like to shadow a Hitokiri, manslayer samurai, deadly assassin, that part's in parentheses, on both the reformers and Shinsengumi sides for 2 days during the Meiji Restoration. I'd also like to get Sagara Soso's signature before the famous war hero is decapitated by the government. Why did I choose to write about this topic? For 2 reasons. In high school, I was really obsessed with this manga series called Rurouni Kenshin. I had also watched the films and was just like such a huge fan, to the point where for one of my essays in, I think it was not World History, AP World History, I chose to write about the restoration period in Japan. So that is what this is referring to. A bit nerdy, a bit detailed, but I guess it highlights a bit of my character, that I really was fascinated with samurais and warriors at that point. So that one's fun. What 5 words best describe you? And strangely enough, there is a 10 word limit for this question, but I answered in 5. Passionate, avid, driven, fangirl, storyteller. I think all of that is still very, very true to who I am today. It really does capture the core of who I am. Maybe I would have switched out one of the first three words because, let's say, like passionate, avid, and driven kind of have the same overall vibe. So if I could revisit this, I probably would take out one of them, put in another one. Fangirl, I think, was the one I was proudest of. Obviously, it is not a word that immediately comes to your mind when you first see this on a college application, so I wanted to surprise admissions officers there. I think fangirl also inherently conveys the idea of passionate, so maybe I would have chosen to keep fangirl and thrown out passionate. Storyteller is just what I do, what I am. It is who I am, so that one's pretty obvious. Yeah, I'm not totally satisfied with these 5 words now, but back then I think it worked. It answered the question. It gave admissions officers an idea of who I am. This one's long. Stanford students possess an intellectual vitality. Reflect on an idea or experience that has been important to your intellectual development. 100 to 250 words, and I was at 250. So if you've been watching my previous videos, this one will sound quite familiar to you, and I'll break it down afterwards. What scares you? My playwriting teacher asks on the first day. If it doesn't scare you, it's not worth writing. So, as a freshman, I confront my fears, writing about religion, heritage, and adolescence through theater, embarking on an awfully big adventure. Lights up on a lagoon of news articles and personal histories, I feast on plays, trading in bedtimes for lands between sleep and awake. Then I summon the courage to send my plays out to the world with the same daring of Jan Barry when he premiered his wild idea on a London stage. The countdown to opening night begins. Professional directors, actors, producers, stage managers breathe in the worlds I built. We have conversations that deeply move me. When an actor shares his experience about losing a parent, moments reaffirm me. I think there's a word missing. Moments like that reaffirm me in soul-crushing doubt. We have conversations that deeply move me when an actor shares his experience about losing a parent. Moments reaffirm me in soul-crushing doubt. Mistakes. This process validates the reason why I write, that my stories may resonate with even one person in the audience. Cue gasps, wet cheeks, and laughter from a united audience. Whether my plays are performed in a school's church-turned theater, a white box in New York, the Stella Adler in Hollywood, or the Old Globe Theater in San Diego, we clap because we believe. After house lights go up, audience members approach me with their life stories in hand, and these are the moments I tear up, marveling at the power of theater, the ultimate act of imagination. And perhaps one day, Peter Pan will drop by the theater balcony to hear the stories I'll tell. Yeah, like I said, if you've seen some of these previous videos here, this will sound very, very familiar to you, but not quite the same, right? So because this one gave me 250 words, I was able to put a twist on it. So previously, the same version of this essay, I had different entry points to it. In the Harvard one, I entered from a metaphor of a potato, because one of the very first plays that I wrote was about a couch potato. You can watch that here. In my Yale one, I had more limited words, so I totally just took out the metaphor and just told it very straight up. But here, because I had a little more leeway, I wanted to play around with the idea of this entry point of Peter Pan. So if you notice throughout, I signify that by including Peter Pan-like imagery. For example, awfully big adventure, you'll realize that's a quote from Peter Pan. Lights up on a lagoon, I feast on plays. If you remember in Peter Pan or Robin Williams' Peter Pan Hook, there is an amazing scene where they all make believe and feast. I write trading in bedtimes for lands between sleep and awake. That's a direct Peter Pan reference. And then I make it very explicit. The same daring of J.M. Barrie when he premiered his wild idea on a London stage. And then this whole paragraph where I talk about why playwriting moves me so deeply. I talk about the behind the scenes of the playwriting process. It validates the reason why I write, that my stories may resonate with even one person in the audience. So this basically is the core of what I wanted to get at to answer this question, right? Because the question asks, reflect on an idea or experience that has been important to your intellectual development. And this process of world building is certainly very important to the way how I see like the real world. So these experiences of actors sharing their personal stories, or audience members like taking the time to email me after a play, or come up to me in person and be like, wow, you have really helped me process my grief, or that really reminded me of X, Y, and Z. Like, those are the moments I live for. You cannot, that is irreplaceable, is truly invaluable. So that's why I wanted to write about it, because those experiences really have shaped me deeply, been important to my intellectual development. And then I wrap it up with an explicit Peter Pan reference, and perhaps one day Peter Pan will drop by the theater balcony to hear the stories I'll tell. Okay, and here is one of Stanford's most famous essay questions. I hope they never take this out because this is a lot of fun. Virtually all of Stanford's undergraduates live on campus. Write a note to your future roommate that reveals something about you, or that will help your roommate and us know you better. 100 to 250 words. When you walk into our room on move-in day, do not be surprised to see my watercolors of the Avengers displayed on the walls. That collection will probably grow. I'll tell you about the day I interviewed Anthony Mackie and took a selfie with Sebastian Stan at the Civil War press conference. Though I'm an adamant Team Cap fan, I've discovered that supporters of Team Iron Man have big hearts, biting wit, and the ability to see the good in broken people. So I will love you even if you're on Stark's side, but be prepared for attempts at conversion. I've never been to Comic-Con, which is not true anymore. I've never been to Comic-Con, but that didn't stop me from organizing an equally passionate spin-off called Fandom Fair at school. A fair warning, my superhero lifestyle will most likely infiltrate my studies as well. I wrote a cause and effect essay about the effects of a post-9/11 world on the superhero movie industry. My statistics project compared my school's proportion of female moviegoers interested in the superhero genre to the national average. I wrote a play about two geeky roommates who decorated their dorm with superhero posters, in parentheses, sound familiar, ? And always tried to outquote each other. The passion I have for Marvel reflects equally in my desire to impact the world, so be prepared for late night conversations exchanging not only our fandoms, but also ideas of what needs to change in society. Thank you for embarking on this roller coaster with me. 245 words. I feel like a little emotional reading this. And I'll tell you why. I really should show this to my first and second year roommate, Catherine, because really, I mean, obviously I did not end up at Stanford, but this is the letter I would have written to any roommate at any school. So I just really should show this to her. Let's break this down. Okay, so I start off by painting the scene. When you walk into our room on move-in day, don't be surprised to see my watercolors of Avengers displayed on the walls. I wanted to show that I am artistic and that I am really, really passionate about the things that I care about, to the point of creating fan art. And guess what? This is true. My first year dorm room was decorated. You can see a picture here. And then I move into stuff in the past, right? Things that I have already done. Some of my most fascinating, interesting stories. I think the days when I interviewed part of the Avengers cast, that makes a pretty interesting story. And I say here, though I'm an adamant Team Cap, I've discovered supporters Team Iron Man have big hearts, blah, 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 all these amazing qualities. And I say, I will love you even if you're on Stark's side, but be prepared for attempts at conversion. Why did I include this? I wanted to demonstrate that I have the ability to empathize and see both sides and still like fight for my own side. And this quality of intellectual debate, of conversation, of sharing your opinion and then trying to change someone else's opinion, that's something that universities value very highly, right? The ability to debate. So I wanted to convey that through a really fun situation, which is low stakes fandom, or maybe to some people it's like really high stakes. But yeah, through the lens of fandom. And because this question it's a fun question. It's about like, what are you going to tell your roommate? But you also have to remember, you're not writing to your roommate. You're writing this, an admissions officer is going to end up reading this. So just keep that in mind. So I talk a little bit about something called fandom fair at school, and let me tell you, that's probably, like, kid you not, my proudest high school legacy. I think it's still ongoing right now, but started it in high school. I think I was a 10th grader. I wanted to do a Comic-Con spinoff at my school, and I went to a very artistic high school, so I knew that people would be down to cosplay, dress up, make fun games and booths for one day at lunch during school. It's glorious, super glorious. And I have dressed up as quite a few of the Marvel superheroes during my time in high school. And then I say a little bit more about how this passion of mine has infiltrated my studies, right? So I talk about this post 9/11 essay, I talk about a stats project, I talk about a play where these roommates decorated their dorm with superhero posters. What I wanted to demonstrate here is that this passion translates into my real life actions, my real life academic interests. And let me tell you, this does not stop in high school, because your girl's still doing plenty of papers on not just the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but just other favorite TV shows, movies, just shows that I really, really like. So that's something I really love about college, is that you do have the intellectual freedom and liberty to really explore your heart's desire. And I was actually thinking of doing a video about cool papers / projects that I've done in college. So leave a comment below if you want to see that. And finally, I wrap this letter up with why did I spend so much of this letter talking about Marvel? Because at the end of the day, it's not really about Marvel. It's that I wanted to show this passion can translate into other things as well, right? I'm not just my whole life is not solely about Marvel. A big chunk of it is, but I just wanted to show that I have a lot of big dreams, big ideas, and the same passion that I used to discuss about, Chris Evans' jawline or Captain America's character. I can bring that equal intensity to literally anything else. So I end it with, be prepared for late night convos, exchanging not only our fandoms, but also ideas of what needs to change in society. Thank you for embarking on this roller coaster with me. Yeah, oh my God, I get a little emotional because Catherine and I have shared so many late night conversations, just like laying in our beds with all the lights off. We're supposed to go to sleep. We have early morning the next day, and yet we'll talk for hours. We'll talk about our own artistic ambitions. We'll talk about our really niche random fandoms, and we'll talk about problems in the world and what needs to change. So it sounds grandiose, the ending to this letter, but man, I just want to go back and tell high school Cassandra, like, you don't know what's in store for you. Like, God has an amazing roommate for you. Anyways, if you want to read more about my amazing roommate, I'm going to link to one of my Yale blog posts below, because my roommate is a star and I just had to write this blog post about how awesome she is. So read about that. Truly, truly amazing person. All right, and now we are at our very last question. This one's deep. Deep, I'm telling you. What matters to you and why? 100 to 250 words. So I took a gamble on this. You'll see. Facebook status posted on 10/7, so October 7th, after outrage over Bruce Lee biopic, : I don't want to say, here we go again, another abomination against the Asian community. This ends here. Every instance of whitewashing is an atrocity. When I read that one of our culture's few celebrities in mainstream media was degraded to sidekick, in all caps, in his own biopic, I felt anger. It's bubbling up inside me, not only because of this, but because it's 2016, and yet we have Matt Damon saving China, Scarlett Johansson in Ghost in the Shell, Tilda Swinton in Doctor Strange, Nat Wolff in Death Note, the lowest form of journalism, M-, if it can even be called that, M-, perpetuating stereotypes on Fox TV. Now, Bruce Lee's own movie was stolen from him. I could go on and on with the list of blatant racism we've witnessed in the past year alone, but I want to leave you with this. I caught myself wishing that I could grow up a little faster, graduate college sooner, and, in all caps, do something about this. But why now? Friends, it's time for us to stand together. For too long, our community has been silent, but in this case, endurance is not a virtue. Standing up is. Whether it means creating content that features true diversity, writing about Hollywood's whitewashing, ... or interviewing Asians who are already standing up for the community, I commit the rest of my life to fighting for Asian American representation. It starts now. Edited and condensed for clarity. So I took a leap with this. I straight up copied an old Facebook status from that fall and pasted it here, and only cut a little bit just to fit the word count. And yeah, this was a very time sensitive issue at that time. A lot of this probably doesn't make sense now, but those are some of the things that our community was thinking through at that time. And I felt very strongly about it, and it seemed to fit in with everything else I had mentioned on my app. My passion for diversity, my passion for storytelling, representation. So this seemed very, very fitting in terms of what matters to you. The fact that this is a Facebook status, I think, shows that this is really who I am, right? I didn't write this for the college application. This is just something I'm genuinely passionate about, and it matters to me. It matters to me still. And yeah, so I wrote this in October and then probably submitted this app in December. So that aspect of, oh, this girl is really unfiltered, or this is who this girl really is, probably rings true to the admissions officer. And I thought that this status fits this question because it not only answers what matters to you and why it matters to you, it also included what I'm going to do about it. And I say it here. I say I'm going to create content that features true diversity. I'm going to write about Hollywood's whitewashing and call it out. And I want to interview Asians who are already standing up for the community. And I make a commitment to spend the rest of my life doing those things. So I think that's something that might be helpful for you to consider, is not only what matters to you and why it matters to you, but what are you going to do about it / have been already doing about it. So in summary, I have 3 tips for you today. 1, for the list questions, questions that ask you to list X, Y, and Z, give a variety. Everyone has their pool of favorite movies, favorite TV shows, favorite theater shows, favorite songs, whatever, right? And within that pool, I would push you to examine what are some of specific choices that would demonstrate a lot of variability, differences from each other. And as long as those 2 perhaps very different films or different TV shows or different books are in this pool that you would call your general favorites, you are good. I just don't want you to go the opposite direction and choose something very avant-garde just to try to show how cool you are if you really don't like it. So just don't be someone who you're not when you answer these questions, but I would encourage you to look for variety amongst your favorites. 2, be true to yourself. So I mean this practically in the sense of, Stanford here is asking like, what matters to you? What are the most significant challenges? Like those can be really intimidating questions to answer at first because you're like, I need to say something like big and important, but that is not true, right? They know that you are not a god. You do not have all the answers to the universe. You do not have a bird's eye view on the entire world situation. So you can only answer something that rings true to you. What do you see as the most significant challenge? What do you think matters most to you? What is your lived experience? And why are you passionate about it? And what have you been doing in your high school career to demonstrate that passion and pursue it or solve this problem? So don't go for like, Miss Universe answers of world peace. You want to choose topics that are relevant to your immediate life. My third tip for you is have fun. Stanford questions are they're so fun. I mean, look at them. Like, write a letter to your roommate, like pick 5 words that best describe you, what historical moment or event you wish you could have witnessed. These are all fun. These are questions that you have probably asked your friends, right? So don't be so hard on yourself in trying to find the perfect answer for these questions, because these admissions officers' goals is just really to get to know you, what makes you buzz, all your little quirks. Like if you are super quirky, I guess this really is the application for you, because you could take this in so many different directions, especially the roommate one. So the fact that Stanford even has this roommate question, it's a sign that they really want to know who you are outside of the classroom, who you are away from perhaps all of these very polished like teacher recommendations, who you are outside of your GPA, your resume. They just want to know who you are, like who you are when you wake up, what you do on a day when there's nothing planned, what your mind gravitates towards, all of those things. I think that's what they're after, that sort of vibe. They want to take a peek below the polished and very accomplished student that you are and get to know the real you. So it all boils down to one thing: have fun on this app. If you're not having fun, something's up, something's wrong. You got to take a deep, hard look at some of your answers. It should be fun. Speaking of fun, I hope you had fun listening to this. I hope that was enlightening for you. And again, don't forget to check out my previous videos where I seriously reveal every single essay that I've written for some of these schools. So comment and subscribe if you want me to do more of these, because your girl applied to 17 schools. That's a lot of content that I have available to give to you guys. So hit subscribe. You do not want to miss out. And I will see you guys all next week. Thank you so much for watching, and bye.